guys, in this video we're going to take a look at solving an inequality. So using like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division to get a variable by itself. There's an interesting rule or specific rule that we use when we're working with inequalities, and it's demonstrated by what I have listed here below. So I have an inequality symbol that relates the two numbers on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So it starts off with 3 and -4. Well, 3 is greater than, so the wide side faces the 3, and the narrow side faces the -4, because that's the less than side. So the first thing that I do to both sides is I add 1. So 3 plus 1 becomes 4, -4 plus 1 becomes -3. And it maintains that this is still the greater side. When we subtract 1 to both sides, same thing happens. This maintains that this side is still greater. Then we multiply by 2, we get 6 and -8. And again, this side is still greater. All of these are positive, all of these are negative. When we divide by 2, that maintains that same relationship. An interesting thing happens down here, though, when we multiply by -3. That takes this from being a +3 into being a -9. On the other side, same thing happens. -4 becomes 12. When that happens, our inequality flips directions. So this went from being a greater than facing this right-hand side, and now that its greater sign is facing the left-hand side. That's because this went from being negative into a positive, and this went from a positive to a negative. So now this is greater. Then it flips back around when we divide by a -3. This goes from being a positive number into a negative. This goes from being a negative into a positive. So this flipped once here, and then a second time right there. And those are the 2 points that are interesting, unique, and different about inequality than it would happen if we had an equal sign. Is that when you are multiplying or dividing by a negative value, that is going to flip the inequality sign. So when we are working with solving inequalities, you're going to have to be on the lookout for occasions when you are multiplying or dividing by a negative number. So here are some example problems. The directions say solve for the indicated variable. So in letter A, we want to get B by itself because that's the variable, and solve means try to get that thing alone. So to undo subtraction, I'm going to add because that's the inverse operation. To undo subtraction, we need to add. -1 plus 9 gives us 8 is greater than or equal to B. So that's my answer, is that we're just getting B by itself. To do that, we add 9 to both sides. Since we didn't multiply or divide by a negative, you don't have to flip that sign. Over here, we have y divided by -3 is greater than 2. So I need to get y by itself. To undo division, we need to multiply. The inverse of division is multiplication. So both sides of the equal sign, or both sides of the inequality, I should say, need to get multiplied by -3. Because this is division and multiplication, they undo each other, leaving us with just y. This is -3 times 2, so that's -6. But because we multiplied by a negative, that's when this rule comes into effect. We need to flip this around, and that is now y is less than -6. This went from being a positive number to being a negative number. This side went from being negative with this sign here down to being positive right there. Same thing happens in C. We want to get this by itself, so we start by getting rid of that 7. So to get rid of +7, we're going to subtract 7 on both sides. That gives us -16 is less than or equal to, this becomes a 0, so we don't need to worry about that, -8v. So we divide by -8, divide by -8 on both sides equal sign, and we get +2. Because we divided by a negative, that's when we flip that sign, and we get v's. So that's our answer. 2 is greater than or equal to v. Last one, we need to get m by itself. So to undo +1, we need to subtract 1 on both sides. That gives us m over 3 is less than 6 minus 1 is 5. Now we need to undo that division. To undo divide by 3, I need to multiply by 3 because those are the inverse operations. To undo division, we need to multiply. So we get m is less than or equal to 15 because we didn't have to multiply or divide by a negative. That stays as that sign. All right, have a wonderful rest of your day, guys.